Ferrari has made so many changes to its 2+2 Super GT that it hasn't just updated the Roma and kept the name. No, it's called this the new Ferrari Amalfi. All right, yes, it is a heavily updated version of the Roma, but the changes are significant. So much so that the brand says it's stretched the parameters both in terms of comfort and also supercar performance. So in this video, we're going to find out whether those changes have made it better all round or whether stretching it has made it a little bit compromised.
And we'll find out whether those updates can keep Ferrari's 2+2 competitive in a world featuring an excellent Aston Martin Vantage once again.
Now, the changes start on the front of the car, and they're not insubstantial because, of course, you'll have spotted the design tweaks to the headlight. They are, of course, swapped from the softer, more curvaceous designs of the Roma for a slightly more angular one across the front here. And yes, there is a black bar on the nose. But the bigger design change, both from a design and also from an engineering point of view, is lower down. If I show you this lower section over here, you'll spot the Roma's body-coloured section with some small openings has been swapped for a big proper gap in the bodywork, and it's only filled with this grille over here. So that means there's more air to pass through into the engine bay, which of course keeps the fluids nice and cool. But Ferrari also says that it improves aerodynamics because it reduces drag as well. Plus, down here, you'll notice this front splitter has a slightly more aggressive edge to it, and that is also mirrored underneath the car. There's a more aggressive vane selection, so it means air is directed onto the front calipers, and apparently it also helps to reduce drag. So this car is both better at managing its temperatures and faster as well. Now, the brakes themselves do look very similar to what we had before, and they of course are carbon ceramics like all Ferraris these days, but there are some big changes in terms of technology. But before I run you through those, check out these new alloy wheels. They look fantastic. I love the blade design to them. And of course, they come wrapped, in this case, in Goodyear tyres with a bespoke compound that Ferrari has had developed to suit this car's stretched parameters.
The most controversial technical change made to the Amalfi is the introduction of the SF90 supercar's brake-by-wire system. Since the Amalfi isn't a hybrid like the SF90, it doesn't need Ferrari's ultra-smart 6D tech to digitally manage braking because there's no battery regen to worry about. But, naturally, engineers dismissed my concerns and told me that the brake-by-wire tech actually improves braking performance in terms of stopping distance as well as pedal feel. We'll test that in a moment. And before you ask, in the highly unlikely case of a system failure, there is a conventional physical connection between the pedal and brakes, which is nice to know when there are no guardrails on the mountain.
Just cutting in to say thank you for watching the video. If you're enjoying it, please do hit the subscribe button, and of course, leave a comment and a like if you're having a really great time. If you want to know more about this car, well, I've actually written a full review for PistonHead, so go to their website to check out my even more detailed verdict. While the rear side of the car didn't change that much, the rear itself has changed substantially. And again, just like the front, it's both in an aesthetic sense and also in an aerodynamic sense. Now, I'll show you the aesthetic changes. Of course, these lights now, they're slightly pushed into the bodywork, so they're not hanging out like the jewels of the Roma, as Ferrari would put it. Here, they're slightly more tucked away. And also you'll spot the rear diffuser has definitely not shrunk, and that obviously helps with aerodynamics. It helps to improve downforce, and of course they're also claiming it reduces drag as well. But the most interesting bit is actually an active feature on the rear here, because you'll notice we've got a slightly more aggressive spoiler over here, but the interesting thing is how it lifts through 3 phases. This is the resting position, but it can also go to a middle phase and also a high downforce setting where it's 50 degrees in angle upwards, so that's pretty high. Now, if you thought the exterior had a lot of changes, the interior is really where this car earns its new name, because the Amalfi gets a new steering wheel with actual physical buttons. Of course, this is a bit of a trend now in the industry, people reverting away from those touch-sensitive things back to proper buttons. And of course, the Roma, well, it had touch-sensitive stuff all over the wheel, including the start button, which was a bit criminal, especially when you've got a twin-turbo V8 under the bonnet. So now we've gone back to a proper mechanical switch, which has been on Ferraris since the F430, if you remember that excellent car. And now it comes complete with other buttons as well. Everything from your media to your driving assistance features can be controlled on the wheel. And of course, you still keep other essentials like these lovely shift paddles, which have a really nice shift action. And Alfa Romeo is a slightly softer, more cushion feeling. This is more like a shotgun, I guess, or something. Not that I fired one of those. Also, you still get your Manatino down here, with everything from a wet mode all the way through to an ESC off mode.
No less significant is the digital change to the dash. You still get an instrument cluster with a digital rev counter promising 10,000 RPM, even if the Amalfi's raised crank limit is 7,600 revs. But the key upgrade is the central screen, which is now landscape and both quicker reacting and easier to use on the go, which sort of makes up for the fact you still need to tap the screen to make climate control changes. Like before, passengers can view a screen of their own as a $5,000 option up front, while those forced to sit in the back have definitely drawn the very short straw.
And of course, along with those very small rear seats, which are definitely just for very small kids, you do get a decent sized boot. That, for a couple's getaway, should be plenty of space. Now, first things first, it's 2025 or 26 whenever you're watching this, so that means there are bings and bongs in cars. But Ferrari has done the sensible thing like all the best brands of today, and it's given you a physical button to just press and turn them off. So that annoying binging you can hear, press and hold this button on the steering wheel, I click OK, and they're all off. Fantastic, and it means I can focus on the good bits. Which includes, of course, a twin-turbo V8 engine producing 640 horsepower. That's up on before.
And it's run by Ferrari's latest MG1 engine management system, which works with its 6.1 slide-slip control wizardry.
Now, the best thing about that tech is it allows you to press on without fully switching off the electronic controls. So it means if you find yourself on a slightly greasy Portuguese mountain road like this one, you don't have to drive with your eyeballs on stalks. You can drive like a proper supercar driver. This is a Grand Tourer, but it's one that's on your side, and that is helped by the natural balance of this car, something that has been true even in the Roma. This is a front mid-engine car, which means that V8 is nestled right up against the bulkhead just over there.
So that means the weight distribution of the car is an almost perfect 50-50 front to rear. And you don't half appreciate that, especially when you catch a damp patch just seconds after you dare to switch off the ESC. Yeah, that extra muscle, provided by turbos that spin 6,000 revs faster than the Romas, can really hit hard, even with a clever E-diff at the back to help you manage the power.
I just love the way you can get into a corner, get on the brakes, pitch the car in, and then chase the throttle through it, and then just feel the car pivot around you. It is a wonderful, controllable feeling. It really puts you at the center of everything, and not just in the figurative sense, but also in the literal sense. The car pivots around you beautifully. Steering feel is better as well. Apparently, to achieve that, they haven't just tweaked the steering system itself, but they've also stiffened up the rear axle and tweaked the E-diff as well to give the car a more direct feeling and also to give you more feedback through the wheel. This is an electrically assisted power steering system, so unlike McLaren with their hydraulics still in the car, this is the latest and therefore potentially less feelsome setup, but Ferrari has managed to unlock genuine steering feel. You really know what the Goodyears are doing on the front of this car. So if I start to feel them push, I can then get onto the power and unleash that 640 horsepower. Oh yeah, and I haven't even mentioned the brakes. Brake-by-wire technology means, oh, bloody hell. Oh, there's a lot of brain at the front of my head right now. I'm getting a bit dizzy. They work exceptionally well. And I can confirm from earlier testing, they keep doing that endlessly. This car feels light in every way. Woo-hoo-hoo! The engine as well has a lovely gravelly low note. At lower revs, it's a bit gravelly, it's a bit vocal, it's almost clearing its throat, it's coarse, but then when you let it rev out, you get that recognizable flat plane Ferrari tone. Oh, these brakes are strong.
With its added muscle over the Roma, the Amalfi feels to me like the most supercar of this Super GT breed. It's as agile and extreme as they come, but while that does mean it's probably not as rounded as the new Aston Martin Vantage in a high-performance Grand Tourer sense, the Amalfi, equipped with semi-active Magna Ride damping and Ferrari's brilliant bumpy road setting, still deals with surface imperfections remarkably well. Sure, its firm seats are nowhere near as comfortable as the armchairs you get in a Continental GT, but the Amalfi can definitely be docile well, especially when you drive it in wet mode. But what's the point of that? This is a 200 mile per hour and 200,000 pound Ferrari.
So yeah, is this the ultimate Super GT? The answer to that is hell yeah. I really like this car a lot. I wish I could afford one. If you're like me though and you can't, well rest assured there are some other fantastic performance machines out there, and in fact I've driven a few of them, so I'll stick the videos on screen somewhere here now.